Good morning, I'm WaywornWyrm, and welcome to my channel. This is WaywornWyrm from the editing bay later. I've actually uploaded a version of this video to YouTube that doesn't contain this, and I think this is really important, which is why I'm breaking in here at the beginning of the video. I did not think about including trigger warnings. That was totally my fault. And this is one that should have... This is a video that should have some trigger warnings. So, here we go. I fairly candidly talk about depictions of rape, sexual assault, rape culture a little bit, although I don't call it out by name, and the depictions of such in the Witcher games. I try not to go into any real detail or anything with that. However, I also don't shy away from it. I think that that the game would be better without depicting those, or at least it depicts them poorly. But there you go. I hope you go back to enjoying this, and I'll see you on the other side. And welcome to the first Friday video in quite a while. Today, what I want to talk about is related to the videos that went up yesterday, so be sure to watch those. Well, if you want, it's my start of a new Witcher series, but what I am going to focus on is the misogyny and sexism of The Witcher. So, what I will start off with is an admission. I have not read the books. However, it's pretty clear that that's where a lot of this misogyny started, unless CD Projekt Red did a lot of artistic licensing with the world, and I have yet to hear anyone ever complain about that. So either nobody has read the books and played the games, yeah, they haven't done both, or CD Projekt Red came pretty close with the misogyny and the sexism. So, the games. I only played the first act of the first game, up into the Barghost fight, and why I quit then was because there's a huge difficulty spike at that fight. Like if I ever wanted to play it again, I'd have to grind for a long time, and like, could I beat that fight? Probably. I tried like 5 or 6 times. I was starting to get the hang of it by the time I quit. But the problem is with that game and me continuing to play it is that difficulty spike is really high, and I had no longer cared enough about the game to keep playing. And because I'm making this video, because I've made the series that I made, because I'm working my way through The Witcher 2 and The Witcher 3, I really, really like the world. At least the larger concepts of the world. Yeah, I'm making this video because the basic idea of The Witcher and the world that Geralt is in is really fascinating to me. I really like it. Why did I no longer care about the first game then if I love the at least basic idea so much? That's because of, I think they're called romance cards, but let's call a spade, the sex cards. The cards that you get when you have sex. The first time you have sex, with each new character, you get a collectible card. And there's a lot of issues with that. But I'm going to kind of sidestep that, because I think it could have gone well if they had done it right. And they did it poorly, and part of the reason why they did it poorly was the scenes that you got. It was like looking through lightly frosted glass at two people having sex, and then usually some scene that shows the outside and blah blah blah. I think they went too far to not offend those who don't want to see that. In fact, the first time it comes up with Triss Merigold, I didn't know that was about to happen until it did. I didn't know I was about to get a sexy cutscene. That wasn't sexy at all, and I'll get to that part in a second. Yeah, it was just... Now, when I did it again with the barkeep, the woman in the tavern outside of Vizima, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was getting in for, so... and that one was kind of harder to get. I say kind of, I mean, it was. I had to do a certain quest, and not get her killed. And then I had to meet her the next evening with some wine. Which, well, in my case, I didn't have to get wine. I just had to walk to the place and then meditate until... Or rather, because you've got to meditate at a fire in the first one, I meditated somewhere, walked to the place. I had a bunch of wine on me. I handed her one. So, that one, it's harder to get on accident. But I think it goes too far to appease those who would prefer a fade to black. And I think it doesn't go far enough for those who actually want to watch the scene. So I think they went to a middle ground that leaves everyone dissatisfied with what they end up with. Either it goes too far or it doesn't go far enough. I don't think there's anybody who's like, ooh, let's see some sort of kind of not really at all titillating hard to see sex. I don't think that's anyone's kink. Now, if it is, don't let me get in the way. You do you. I mean, I kind of get it because of the lack of technology that was available. The game came out in 2007 using an engine that was originally made for Neverwinter Nights, released in 2002. So, I mean, I kind of get it. However, I played the enhanced version, which was released a year later, it still wasn't that great. Yeah, so that's that. But another issue, beyond just the sex cards, is as I was walking through the town outside of Vizima, I kept hearing people, men boorishly coming on to women, men joking about rape and sexual assault, women talking about being sexually assaulted in a boys will be boys sort of mentality, like, oh, it's not a big deal that a guy tried to corner me and rape me. Or isn't it romantic that this guy follows me every single day? I don't remember the exact words, so if you're leaping to defend the original Witcher game, and you're like, well, that's not what they say, actually they say blah 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 blah, you're being pedantic, and whatever you just typed, that's what they actually said, isn't too far off of those examples that I just said. It was really off-putting. But then we get to The Witcher 2, which was released 4 years later in 2011. And I think this has more problems. They got rid of the sex cards. Yay! They got rid of most to all of the background dialogue that plays off rape and sexual assault as a joke. It still exists, but it's not so clear-cut, light-hearted, the people talking about it. Which is an improvement, but what's not an improvement is how much naked women there are. Now, granted, it's mostly Triss, Marigold again, who wears sexy clothing and is semi-frequently naked, which is fine. I don't really want to see it. I don't think it's rendered very well. It's not titillating. I don't find it attractive. And again, limitations of their engine, whatever. Maybe this was the best that they could do with what they had in 2011. Honestly, I don't particularly remember many games that came out in 2011 and what they looked like and how able they may or may not have been to convincingly portray a naked woman. But in all of the scenes that I've seen where she's naked, it's because she is having sexy time with Geralt, who is always wearing pants. In all of those scenes, every time you see him, now granted, they never, well, they do have sex in the bath, but it starts off with them outside of the bath, and she gets naked in full view, and he takes off his shirt. He's still got his pants on when she pulls him into the water. Or there's another scene where they're in a tent, and she's naked and just kind of laying about, and he's in his pants. This is post-sex. Post them sleeping together. And well, it does kind of objectify his torso, and the V that goes to the penis, but it doesn't actually show his dick, which I'm fine with. However, there's a lot of sexism in that, and the fact that they're perfectly fine showing her naked, but not him. So, yeah. And what I've played of the third one, which is not a ton, but some. The third one does the same thing, except with Yennefer instead of Triss, where she's naked, and he's not. Yeah, just... But one of the reasons why I know that the books have this misogyny is it has the wonderful issue of only men can be witchers because male genes are strong enough to go through the mutation process to make us super awesome, wonderful people. You know, just like Warhammer 40k, the Space Marines. Exact same thing. Only men can withstand the genetic changes needed. Men's genes are stronger than women. They're not. That's bullshit. Human genes are human genes. Women don't have a separate set of genes. If they did, sex wouldn't work. Well, no, sex would work. Reproduction wouldn't work. Getting pregnant wouldn't work. Having babies wouldn't work. Biology does not work in that way. They're the same genes. If men are genetically capable of having someone go in and monkey around with their genes, so are women. As for if men are tougher than women, fuck no, they're not. If I had to deal with cramps for a week, every single month for decades, fuck that noise. I don't want to deal with that shit. Glad women do. They're wonderful. They're amazing for doing that. I'm glad I don't have to. And sure, they can get pregnant. They usually don't have to deal with that for months. I know some people who have. But what they get at the end of that is something that's way too big coming out of an area. And apparently, that hurts like a motherfucker. And I can imagine it does. On top of that, if you've seen women play sports, like, full contact sports like soccer, holy fuck. They're so much more brutal than any men I've ever played soccer with. I've played soccer with men and women. I've seen all dude teams play soccer. I've seen all women teams play soccer. The women are so much rougher. To each other, to guys, fuck it. So yeah, I mean, if you don't see what's wrong with me just saying there, if you don't understand when I say there is a problem with the argument that women can't do this because they can't stand up to the rigorous blah 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 that has to happen, mutations, trials, ancient technology, whatever the fuck it is. If you don't instantly see there's a problem with that, you need to go back to a biology class, and also probably learn some empathy. It's not cool. It's not awesome. And yeah, so just in the entire series, women are treated like objects. In the first game, literally having sex with them gives you a card. And I think you get an achievement if you get all of the cards. Like, that is literally women as a trophy. Women as objects. And yes, the second game is better than the first. And it's quite possible that the third game is better than the second. But they're still not good. Like, yes, the first game, or the second game treats women better than the first game. That goes without question. Second game doesn't treat women well, though. And yeah, you can argue, well, it's dark fantasy. And in dark fantasy, terrible things happen. Like women walking around naked for no reason? That's not... I mean, I get what you're saying. When you say it's dark fantasy, that argument holds a little bit of water. But not much. It's not awesome. Yeah, just... no. There's no... The entire series has a problem with treating women poorly. And, like, when it comes to dwarves, it has a thing where either female dwarves look so much like men that you can't tell them a difference, you can't tell them apart unless you're another dwarf, or women dwarves never leave the halls of dwarfdom. Especially in the second game, female elves, they're measured by sex. The first one you meet, she is being convicted of, or she's being accused of luring two guards to their death. Minor spoiler for a quest in the first chapter of The Witcher 2. So, minor spoiler for the first chapter of a 7-year-old game, almost 8-year-old game. She does it. You find them, they have been killed by elves. If you lie and protect her, she kind of comes on to you. She's like, oh, you're so strong. Oh, why don't you come meet me in this secluded romantic area by a waterfall, and I'll show you how thankful I am to you. And then she's like, yeah, I did it. And now you know too much, which is why I've pulled you into a trap. And yeah. The second elven female that you meet, she's been held captive by the town, by the leader of the town, and he's been raping her for 9 months. It was winter when he kidnapped her. It's now fall of the next year. And while you're trying to save her and get her out, you find out when you first see her, she's pregnant. Although she doesn't look pregnant at all. But you're told that she's pregnant. and she gives birth, and you've got to go kill some guys to make sure that they don't try and get her. And then you end up in a different area. You meet up with your buddies, and you guys are talking, and the person that you left with the first woman, or with the elf woman, is comes out, and she's like, "It's a boy!" And then the elven woman kills herself. The madam of the brothel in that chapter is a spy for the elves, and she ends up killing herself. The main companion woman with the group that you're in, she gets raped for, as far as I can discern, no good reason. Like, there's no... The closest thing to a reason I could find was, it's good to be the king. And sure, that's a thing, but come the fuck on. It's... yeah. And just... terrible, violent things happen to almost every single woman in the entire game. Entire series of games. They're almost all raped and or kidnapped. At least once. They're threatened to be raped all the fucking time. They're objects. They're MacGuffins. Because, like, the thing that I just talked about, where the companion with, the woman that's with the group that you're hanging around with in the first couple chapters, who gets raped out of the blue, she tells her story, and then it immediately stops being about her and the reaction of the men around her and their emotions. That's it. It's like she tearfully recounts how she was raped, and one guy wants to go on to a suicidal warpath, and the other guy's like, "No, they'll just get you killed. We need to be smart about this. We'll get our vengeance, but we'll get our vengeance when it's time." Yeah, that's bullshit. Fuck that noise. Because it has nothing to do. Like, she's raped to advance the story of other men. Triss Marigold and Yennefer, both in different games, get captured so the main character can have something to chase after. Because the evil guys want to get to Geralt, and the best way that they can think of to get to him is by stealing the women he loves. Yeah, that's the whole game. Women are objects. They're good games. Especially the second one, I enjoy playing that a lot. But when I do, I have to set aside and, I have to go, okay, I've got to put my critical misogyny hat aside, the one that pings every time there's misogyny, and gotta set that aside if I want to enjoy these games. Which I don't want to have to do that. I didn't have to do that with Dragon Age, And Dragon Age is dark fantasy. Not Dragon Age Origins, not Dragon Age... whatever they called the second one. Or Dragon Age Inquisitions. Like that. And hell, one of the origins for Dragon Age Origins involved your new bride being taken from you, raped, and murdered. So, like, that in one, 30-second scene has all of the things I've been railing about for the last almost half an hour. And it does it well. Because among other things, it shows the whole community being outraged by it. You're outraged a little more, but that's because you're her new husband. You guys got to be married for 2 minutes before she was taken. Yeah, so there's ways to do it. There's ways to do it well. The Witcher is not one of those ways, unfortunately. So, in my series, women can become Witchers. Am I ever going to have a female Witcher in my story? I don't know. But I could. Because of my interpretation, that's a thing. It's also not going to focus on women being raped. It's not going to focus on women being kidnapped just so men can chase after them. They're not going to be MacGuffins. It's hopefully going to pass the sexy lamp test. Where, would the scene be any different if the woman in the scene was replaced by a sexy lamp? I'm sure that within the first couple of episodes, it's going to pass the Bechdel test. But the Bechdel test is such a low bar. Interestingly, the first episode does not. But that's simply because the 3 women in the group don't happen to talk to each other. They will, probably even in the next episode. Probably even the beginning of the next episode. We will pass the Bechdel test. But yeah, it's not that hard to just do the minimum. The minimum to make sure that... Because the Witcher games are clearly designed to be played by guys. Preferably men, somewhere between their mid-teens and probably their mid-20s. The sex is all focused on women rather than men. A lot of your princesses in another castle. Women are raped to advance the storyline of men. They're assaulted to advance the storyline of men. Hell, in the first game, that second love card that I was talking about, or romance card, or whatever you want to call it, let's call it the sexual conquest card. The second one, you save the woman from being attacked by a group of men who want to rape her. And once you've killed them all, you escort her to her grandma's house, killing a few ghost dogs along the way. And then she wants to repay you for keeping her from being raped by fucking you. That's never going to happen. Women are never going to be like, oh, thank you for making sure I didn't get raped. Why don't you take me now? No, that's not a thing. Outside of the fantasies of men, that's not a thing. Yeah, that's... There's so much unpacking I could do. But I've been talking for over half an hour. I have put down a whole bunch of stuff. I've gotten out a lot of frustration. There's still more frustration, but I've gotten a lot of it out. You should have a better idea of what I think about The Witcher. Again, I enjoy the concept, and the gameplay of the second one is pretty good. I enjoyed it a lot. Gameplay of the first one, yeah. But second one, pretty good. Well, tomorrow I will have my next episode of Sherlock Holmes, and join us Sunday night for The Curse of Strahd. Thank you.